Hello there guys, you're listening to Ebird Online and I'm back with another review. Sorry it's been a couple of days since my last video, but your girl's been busy. But I'm back with my final videos on Ed, and then tomorrow I'm going to be doing my tell-all special. Guys, if any of you are a bit queasy or you have a weak stomach, this episode, well, it ain't for you. Why, I hear you ask? I'm reviewing the episode of the wedding. Oh Liz, as the Ebird, I offer you my deepest condolences. You've had to endure the worst of all bereavements, the loss of your freaking mind. Big Ed, oh my god. Well guys, let's get into it. And just before I do, I just want to very quickly remind you to subscribe to my channel. Thank you to everyone that's subscribed so far. I really do appreciate it. Press that big red button, make Ebird a very happy Ebird. And don't forget to press the like button, it really does make a difference. And so without further ado, I give you Big Ed. No, seriously, I give you Big Ed. I don't want him. I don't know anyone who does. So when we first catch up with Big Ed, he's having yet another "I'm sorry because I'm an idiot" meeting with Liz. Ed tells us he's called her about 10 times and she's missed all of them. Ed, she hasn't missed your calls, she's avoided your calls. And they sit down at the kitchen table and they pick over the carcass of their relationship. And she explains to him that she feels quite angry because he still feels like she's in contact with her ex and she's told him that she isn't. And then she says to production, there's lots of things I could say about Ed, but I haven't said it. Like what? You could not dangle cherries like that in front of us and expect us not to want to bite. Liz, I think I can speak for everybody when I say, like what? Inquiring minds want to know and we want to know now. And they bore on a little bit about how Ed's jealous and how he's going to do better. He's going to stop. Really, Ed? You're going to stop the habit of a lifetime? Okay then. I can tell you now, Liz, Ed isn't going to change, not today, not tomorrow, or not ever. Ed liked me as a Taurian, and we have a tendency to jealousy. But we're also very, very loyal. Ed's missing that part, typical Ed. He gets all the rubbish traits and doesn't have any of the good. But what Liz must realise is, Ed is punching when he's dating someone like Liz. And he'll always know what we all know. If somebody sees Ed walking along the street with Liz and they take a fancy to Liz, they're going to think, I'm far better than Ed, I can take him from her. So Ed is going to have a lifetime of people trying to hit on his girlfriend. And that's just that on that. So the next time we see this couple, they're on the way to the wedding. And Ed lets us know that he's scared of driving. And it's a 3 or 4 hour drive away, this wedding, and so he's hired a driver so that he and Liz can connect in the back of the car. Oh Lord, I feel so sorry for Liz. When the Ebird was a little birdie, we had a collie cross, and we had a big estate car, and the dog used to sit in the boot. And she'd basically stick a little head between the seats and she'd be slobbering on us, licking on us, panting, just basically getting on everybody's nerves from the back of the car. That is what I anticipate Liz is going to be like with Ed. He's going to be all over her. He's going to get on her nerves each and every single mile. And I think it's going to take her, about 10 to 12 minutes to completely regret agreeing to go to this wedding. Let's see what happens, shall we guys? So basically Ed gets in the car with Liz and straight away I know what I always knew. Ed, you're setting yourself up for failure. He manages to kind of twist round on the seat so he's sitting facing Liz even though they're both in the back, and then basically he talks at her, nothing but pure shit, for hours and hours. Ed, you're just too intense. So he talks to her about anything and everything. Oh, look over there, there's a giant pumpkin. I don't need to look out the window to find the giant pumpkin, Ed. And again, oh, look at all those crashed cars, Liz. And nor do I need to look outside to find a car crash. And he goes on and on. But Ed's intensity didn't end there. And Liz said, oh look, there's hot springs. Ed, have you ever been to a hot spring? And he said, no. We were going to go to one in Cancun, but we couldn't find it. In fact, we've got a timeshare in Cancun. Do you want to go to Cancun with me? Liz, can I book you in for Cancun in 2 weeks' time? Oh Lord, Ed, just please slow down. And Liz says, slow your roll. Let's get through this wedding first. And I guess in a way this is how Ed's got so far with the women. The desperate often succeed because they have nothing to lose. And in a rare moment of self-reflection, Ed said, I think I might be getting on Liz's nerves. You don't say. And then he lets Liz know, I have car anxiety. I get panic attacks. Oh Lord. Guys, honestly, I've got to tell you, watching this car journey is turgid. It's awful. I can't imagine what it would be like to be partaking in this car journey. It must be like hell on wheels. And guys, then something super shady happens. They stop for a rest break and Liz gets out of the car and the hotel that Ed's booked calls him and says, we've got a couple of rooms out. So instead of having 2 queen beds, will you have 1 king size? And Ed, without asking Liz or without telling anyone, says, yeah, okay. And that's it. They're booked to sleep in the same bed. And guys, I honestly couldn't believe it. Ed is so super presumptuous. He's going to want to sleep with Liz. And so when Liz gets back into the car, Ed said, yeah, you know about these 2 beds? It's now 1 bed. And he said, is that okay? And she thought for ages, and then she said, yeah, it's fine, in a totally, no, it's freaking not fine kind of way. And we all know it's weird sleeping in a bed with someone you haven't decided on yet, and it's even more weird when that person is walking, talking, trigger warning, Ed the desperate. And he said, are you sure it's okay? And she said, well, I'm just really upset at the sneakiness of it all. And he said in a rather lackluster manner, well, yeah, I mean, the hotel called. I had nothing to do with it, but it didn't sound that convincing. Now guys, to start off with, I completely believed Ed. I thought the hotels rang him, they've changed this room, but when I got to thinking, I thought, you could have done several things. 1, you're in the back of the car doing nothing. You could have just booked a new hotel. 2, you could have said, I booked 2 separate beds. I want 2 separate beds. You better move somebody else and not me. And then I thought, if a room is out, there's nothing wrong with the beds. Go and get the porters to move an extra bed into my room. There in fact were an awful lot of options that were open to Ed at that point. And he decided to make none of them. But then I got to thinking, I would like to see Ed's phone, because I actually think that it's highly likely, knowing how sneaky Ed is, that he's got somebody, I don't know, from home to just call him and say whatever he wanted. Like, how would production know? How would anybody know? I've got a feeling that one of his friends did it. Guys, let me know down below. Do you think Ed changed the room himself? I think it's highly likely he did. And then Ed goes to talk to production, and he said, I've learnt an awful lot about women now, since Rose, and more than likely, I'm not going to say anything if Liz doesn't shave her legs. Oh really, Ed? But that's because Rose was poor, and Liz is not, so you think you can talk out the side of your mouth to Rose. That's the reason for that, Ed. And so they get to the hotel room, and Ed does his usual trick. He immediately cracks open a bottle of bubbly. And we pretty much all know what's going to happen here, don't we? So he asks Liz for a kiss, and she kisses him, and then they kiss again, and then they get ready for bed. And whilst they're snuggling, Ed asks for another kiss. And the following morning, Ed has a smug little smile on his face, and he confirms the very worst of my suspicions. Yes, that's right, they slept together, and it wasn't a mistake because they did it twice. Production quickly go and find Liz. No doubt in a desperate bid to confirm a story that they thought couldn't possibly be true, but alas, it was true. She confirms she slept with Ed, and she said that she taught him all sorts of things that he didn't know before. And Ed tells us this will go down in Big Ed history. And in the final scene for this video, they're getting ready to go to the wedding. And as Liz is putting on her makeup, Ed says, you know, I told you already, you look fine without makeup. Oh my god. Oh my god, I knew it. The moment he sleeps with her, he's now trying to completely control her. Why don't you want the girl to wear makeup? She pointed out, and quite rightly, well, it is a wedding, isn't it? Let me put my lipstick on. But I can already see what's to come. Ed does not want her to wear makeup because he doesn't want anyone else to look at her. He thinks, I've bagged her, I now need to keep her for me. He gets worse and worse. And then finally, he asks her, can I introduce you as my girlfriend at the wedding? And she agrees. And Ed, because he's always pushing, then goes on to say, now you're my girlfriend, will you meet my daughter? And Liz said, oh my god, that's so quick, slow down. And Ed said, well, my daughter doesn't like younger women and I want to make sure she likes you. I don't want to make the same mistake that I had with Rose. And Liz said, oh great, now I'm really anxious. And off they go to the wedding, and that's where we leave proceedings for this week. So guys, everything that I've seen thus far from Liz tells me Liz doesn't like Ed, Liz doesn't fancy Ed, Ed gets on her nerves. So why is it you're sleeping with him? I really don't understand. When she looks at Ed, she has a look that says, I know you've got a couple of chromosomes missing, but everybody's different, we can be friends. That's what her look says. So I just don't understand this flipperoo now. It's weird. And the only thing that I can come up with is that she wanted the fame and she needed to elongate the storyline to fit the season. That's the only thing I can come up with. Either that or she was massively drunk. But guys, I don't buy for a second that she actually fancies Ed. She's nothing but a game player. Having such loose morals must be simply exhausting. I had very, very low expectations for Liz, but even then she's still managed to let me down. So guys, let me know what you think down below. Do you think Big Ed engineered this whole thing? I think he did. I don't think there's any problem with the beds. And I think Liz fell right into his trap. But I also want to know, what do you think to Liz? Do you think she's full of game? I do think she's a good actress. But I can always tell, whenever she's looking at him or near him, she's low-key irritated by him. She never has a laugh with him. She never thinks, okay, he's not the best looking, but he's a lot of fun. He isn't. He's turgid and awful. I definitely think this whole thing was for fame. And in my very next video, I'm going to lay down for Ed why his only bankable currency, i.e. fame, isn't ever going to find him a relationship or keep a relationship. It's not possible. So guys, thank you so much for listening. Please don't forget to like, subscribe and all of that good stuff. It's fun over here. And whilst you do that, I'll get on with my next video. You've been listening to Ebird Online. I bid you good day.